Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. So today what we're going to be doing is talking about trimming. So this is step 2 after you've thrown a piece. After you've thrown a piece, it's going to be like this, and it's going to have kind of an unrefined bottom. So what we want to do today is cut away some of that excess clay and make it look a lot nicer, basically the way this one is. So what we're going to use is this thing called a Giffen grip. And a Giffen grip is perfect because it will hold your piece in place and also center it in the middle of the wheel. So similar to throwing, one of the important things about trimming is we want to keep our hands stable. So you'll notice that I have my forearms resting on the cardboard guard that we have around the edge. And the other thing is my hands aren't actually moving very much. You can see that basically they're always operating on this axis right here. And so similar to what you would see someone do on a lathe, I'm just going to slowly carve this away. And you want to start by carving away the outside. And you can use whichever side of the tool that you prefer. But you just want to refine it. You kind of want to get a narrower foot because that really gives the piece a lot more belly and it'll make it look rounder. And also when you threw it, there was probably some excess clay in the bottom that we can get rid of. So you notice that I haven't touched the middle of the piece yet at all. Like this area right here, I'm only focusing on the outside. Once I have the outside shape exactly how I want it, then I'll start cutting away this area. So just as a general rule, a lot of the times you want to have a correlation between how wide your foot is and how wide your rim is. So for my pieces with these mugs, I generally like to make it so that my foot is about 2/3 the width of my rim of my mug. And so I've actually got this handy dandy little thing. It's just a piece of paper that I cut out to be the right width, and then I just put a bunch of packing tape around it to sort of keep it intact. And so now I've got this foot to be right at 2.4 inches, which is exactly the width that I want to be 2/3 of what I have at the rim. So one other thing that I really like to do is I like to take a little bit more clay away from here. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to make it so that I have a higher foot. And I'm going to be able to do this really nice little undercut. And that's going to give me a lot more belly, which is sweet for aesthetics. It's also going to be nice because the glazes get really fluid and they run. And so if I put a glaze on that's a little too runny, this little undercut will act as a little reservoir. So right now the piece is upside down, but when the kiln is right side up, the glaze is going to be running along here and it'll get stuck in that little undercut for at least a little bit. And that's it's nice to have that little margin. Also, when we get to glazing, this little undercut is something that you can hold on to, and so you can just pick the piece up and then dip it in the bucket, and this gives you something to hold on to, which is quite nice. The one caveat to this is if you want to trim a foot like this, you got to make sure you left the clay down here in order to do that. If you did a really good job of pulling all the clay up from the bottom, then you're just not going to have enough clay in order to do this undercut, and you'll just go right through. So you kind of want to look at the inside of your piece and see what shape you have. And if you have a round shape on the inside, you're going to be able to trim a round shape on the outside, and you'll probably be able to have that undercut. So the final step now, after I've essentially finished my foot, is just to cut away this inside area. And you always want to do this at least a little bit. It'll sit a lot more level on tables, even if there's like a little crumb that it would otherwise pivot on. And it's just a nice spot to sign your name, and you just don't want that extra clay there. Also, if your bottom's too thick, that can cause cracking issues. So we just want to trim this away. And obviously here you also want to be concerned about maybe trimming all the way through, but you can generally think that visually, if you took this foot away, you should be able to just have one smooth curve all the way up the wall into this indented foot area. So long as you have a shape on the inside that basically matches that. And then just as a finishing touch, it can be really, really nice to just take a slightly damp sponge and just burnish that surface a little bit. If you're using particularly like a stoneware, you're gonna have a lot of grog in your clay. And grog is great stuff. I kind of wish I could get porcelain with grog in it and have it still be as white, but that grog leaves pits in the surface when it gets pulled out. And so just taking a sponge, just kind of smoothing that outside can really make it so that you have a nice refined surface, especially on the foot because there's no glaze that's going to be there. And so if you burnish that, that'll be nice. So that's basically it. You can sort of see, I've got that little undercut there. And there's a lot more curve now because I trimmed that foot narrower. A lot of times you may have a shape that almost seems kind of straight, but then if you trim that foot kind of narrow, you will have this curve that you just didn't have before. So a lot of times you may think your shape is boring, but after trimming it, the shape really develops. And so I'm just going to do one more, cover any details that maybe I forgot. That last one was a little off center, but you can see that that didn't get in the way. And so again, I'm focusing on this outside area first. I want to get it to my target width. And I have this little thing to double check just because I want my pieces to be as uniform as possible. And sometimes I'm doing a 50 or 100 mug set and it's late at night and I'm tired. And I just want that little easy way to double check and know that I'm right on target rather than trying to drag the ruler out every time and think, all right, how wide do I want these? What number am I shooting for? I've just got this little paper. Get the top nice and even. And getting the top even is something that will certainly take a little bit of practice. It's mostly, again, just being about how well you can keep your hands stable. You got to make sure that when the clay pushes you out, like there's a bump that is protruding, when it comes around, it's going to push your tool away. And you want to have a little bit of resistance when that bump comes along, but then when it's gone, you don't want to keep digging in with a ton of force, otherwise you're going to be trimming those low spots even lower. And again, I leveled this out, but I'm not taking anything away. And now once I've decided that this is all exactly how I want it to be, and I've got my target foot width, then I can cut away this inside area. And the reason that you want to do that is because if you cut away the inside area first, you sort of locked in the width of your foot. Like for example, if I get to here and then I look at my form and I say, oh no, I wish I had made my foot narrower, I can't really do that because I can't trim away from my foot on the outside. It'll get too thin. And you'll note that the clay that I'm trimming is really soft, and that's just part of the price that you have to pay if you want to pull handles on porcelain. You just have to trim it when it's really soft. With the stoneware though, you have a little more leeway. If you're doing a handle, you still want to put that handle on while the clay is still as soft as possible, because it'll just make it less likely to crack. But with porcelain, it's even more sensitive, and so, I mean, like this clay, I could take these trimmings and wedge them up and throw another pot with them. It's so soft. And there we go. And if you want to, you can take like a metal rib to smooth out this area. There's nothing wrong with that. Or whatever other shaping tool that you prefer. I'm not, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad idea. Sometimes I do. And then to sign your name, the best thing to do is just take a normal writing utensil, like a pen. You can use a needle tool, but if you use a needle tool, the lines are really scratchy. Whereas, you know, that gives some nice line quality, nice thick lines. And so that's basically it. I've got another million ones of these to do, but I might as well just cut the recording now, stream the rest, and yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully this was helpful.